I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with author A. Alex Comey. His book, Pray for the Abyss, is a spine-chilling thriller that takes reader on a dark and ominous journey into the mind of a serial killer. The novel revolves around the Blue Eyes Killer, who, days before his execution, manages to escape and is determined to wreak havoc once again. Comey's masterful storytelling and vivid descriptions make for a haunting read that will leave you on the edge of your seat and turning those pages so fast you'll be fanning yourself. We're delighted to have Alex in the spotlight today. Thank the team at Authors Reputation Press for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. Alex, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Thank you, Logan. It's a privilege.
Oh, the privilege is all mine, sir. Loved your book. It's quite a thrilling read. For the folks at home who haven't read it, let's give them an overview of what Pray for the Abyss is all about.
Okay, Pray for the Abyss is actually a trilogy. And the first book is called Killing Blue Eyes, which is the title of the trilogy. And the second book in place is indeed Pray for the Abyss, which is the one we're talking about today. And I'm writing the third book, the final book, pretty much as we speak. I'm writing it pretty much. And it's a good book. Like you mentioned, it'll draw you in. It will question your mind. It will question your morality. It will question whether or not what happens in the book is right or wrong, because a lot of darkness is there as well as light. And as you read, you'll be drawn in.
Absolutely. I was. And for the folks at home, tell them what this serial killer is all about. He's a bit unusual.
Okay. Well, Logan, when I started to put together the trilogy, which I have never written before, I found it exciting. And I said to myself, well, let's go back in history and kind of start there and bring it into modern day. And that's what I did. So I went back into the Bible, into the book of Genesis, and I took one of the main events from that Bible and brought it into today. And that main event, of course, is in the Garden of Eden with Cain and Abel. Now, I don't want to give the book away. Sure. However, I do want to say this. We all pretty well know anyone that has a grip on the Bible, we all know that Cain killed Abel in the field. We know that. And that was really the first murder. And the book kind of gears toward modern day when Cain is reincarnated and Abel is reincarnated. And Cain goes after Abel because Cain wants Abel to murder him and kind of switch God's role around. Because when Cain killed Abel, God was very angry and God threw him out of the Garden of Eden. And of course, Cain cried to God and said, everybody out there will try to kill me now. So God said, no, I will put a mark on you so that no one kills you. And if they do, then their repercussion will be 7 times worse than normal. So God put a mark on Cain. Now here's the clincher. That mark on Cain, to this very day, no one knows exactly what that mark was or is. So when I created the trilogy, Killing Blue Eyes, that was the mark that God put on him. The most incredible, beautiful blue eyes ever seen. They were bewitching, transfixing, and they were so powerful that when you put your eyes on his eyes, he can control you. So that's kind of the gist of the story.
Love it. I also love the fact that you tied it to the Bible because it makes it real, it makes it haunting, it makes it historical. When did you decide to tie this all to the Bible? Was that right at the genesis of the story, so to speak?
Yes, and that's interesting that you should say that, Logan, because being a Christian myself, if a Christian picks up the book and reads it, as well as someone who is not a Christian, they will see that I did not hold back the dark side and I did not hold back the good side, the righteous side. And they kind of blend together. And as I said earlier, that is what's going to bring together in your mind what is right, what is wrong. If I were the new Abel is, by the way, a small town marshal called Clayton Cooper. And Clayton Cooper is a very, very, very law enforcement kind of guy. But when Blue Eyes contacts him and says, "Hey, you're really my brother, and we're reincarnated," he kind of goes, "Come on, give me a break. That's not true. That's not real. That reincarnation's not in the Bible. No, I don't believe that. Blah blah blah." But anyway, as the program goes along, the Blue Eyes Killer begins to tell him, "Hey, you're going to kill me this time. I'm not going to kill you. And when you kill me in a special ceremony with a very special knife that I have. And you will do it." And the marshal said, "No, you're a psychopath. You're sick. The only thing I'm going to do with you is put cuffs on you, arrest you, and I'm going to drag you down onto death row where you'll sit and wait your turn." So the Blue Eyes Killer says, "Well, this man needs motivation. My brother needs motivation." So he begins to do things that are just, the reader will find quite unbelievable, incredible, and just horrifying, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's really, it'll draw you in, a lot of adrenaline.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did you know off the bat that this book would be a 3-part trilogy, or did you think it was going to be a freestanding novel and then it just took on a life of its own?
Well, actually, when I started it, I really didn't think about a trilogy. But when I started the book, then it came to me that I've never written a trilogy. So I think I'll turn it into one and give it a try. And I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorites that I've written. And yeah, it was after I started that I made a trilogy.
Wonderful, wonderful. And the fans will love it as well, because just like any other good book, if you really enjoy it, you want there to be a sequel, and then you want there to be another book to follow up on that. And there you have it. What was it like writing these books? Was it hard work? Did it just come to you through inspiration? Did it just flow effortlessly? Tell us a little bit about the writing process.
Okay. Louis Lamar once said that he could sit in the middle of Sunset Boulevard and write. When I write, I want it quiet, absolutely no sound, because when I write, my characters become me and I become them, and I feel what they feel. And that's a good example of how the book came about, because I like to get by myself and feel what they feel. And I put it down on paper, and it's for me and it's for the reader. I want the reader to be drawn in. I want the reader to be just can't wait to turn the page. And that's how I write. And I write different genres. And this particular genre was pretty exciting to write. So,
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
It's also a tough place sometimes to have your head when you're writing about a serial killer. Like you said, you're kind of living their existence. You kind of become them in a way while you're writing.
Yes.
That can be very haunting. It can be damaging. It can be depressing at times. What was it like for you experiencing those different feelings?
Well, I did some research, and I talked about Jeffrey Dahmer, and I talked about John Wayne Gacy with my wife and some other friends. And we talked about the things they had done and how horrible they were and how unbelievable. How could people do these kinds of things? It gets deep into psychology, into the human mind and the human psyche. And I just found it difficult sometimes to become or feel what the killer was feeling. Very difficult. But I felt like I owed that to the reader, Logan. And I said to myself, no, you've got to go into this deep, dark place. You're in the room, you're by yourself, get into his mind. Let him get into your mind. Because I learned in my research that there's love and hate in the Christian world and all the other good faiths in the world. There's love and hate. And I also learned that in the dark world, there was also lots and lots of love and hate as well.
Yeah.
The two kind of blend, but only one of those, that is the dark or the light, only one of those can protect our children, keep them safe, keep them happy. And of course, that's the light. So I just dug deep in. Just all there was to it.
Yeah. It's a lot like method acting, where you try to really live the life of the person. It's interesting about serial killers, and it's interesting what you say about light and dark, and about evil and good, and about love and hate, because we tend to kind of create a fictional character in our mind when it comes to a killer, that this person is just pure evil. They are
Yes.
pure evil in part, but there's another side of them as
Yes,
well.
there
And
is.
that's the
Yes.
complexity of a serial killer, don't you
Yes.
think?
Oh, indeed, I do. I do. And that's one thing that I thought about when I wrote it. I had talked to my main director, and that's the Lord, and I had said, Lord, I don't want to exclude the truth behind the darkness. Oftentimes in movies and such, you don't hear all of the language. You don't see all of the really bad things, and you don't feel so much what they feel. But in a book, when you sit quiet and you read a book in a quiet place, it's a whole different world. A movie is wonderful. Don't get me wrong, because I love going to the movies, and a movie will lock your eyes on the screen. But a good book, you can you can be drawn into that book and lose yourself. And that's kind of what I like to do when I write. Again, I want to pull the reader in. I really do.
You want them to live in that world, and you
I do indeed. Taste it and feel it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why do you think there's such a fascination with serial killers? I mean, John Wayne Gacy did terrible things. Ted Bundy did terrible things. Jeffrey Dahmer did terrible things. But we do, on some level, have interest in hearing their stories and what they did it and why they did it. Why do you think there's a fascination with serial killers?
Well, the Bible says that there's darkness and evil in all of us, every single one of us. Even the Apostle Paul once said that I do what I shouldn't do, and I don't do what I should do. And he was just telling us simply that nobody's perfect, and we all know that none of us are perfect. And people have a gravitation toward evil, even though they want to fight it. And we know, according to Christian principle, we know Satan is behind everything. We know that. And people have to fight that. But to fight that, they have to think about it as well. They got to get into their own psyche, and they've got to think. And again, that's what Pray for the Abyss and Killing Blue Eyes, and the third book will be about, is you realizing that there is good, there is bad. But people are bad inside. We have to all fight that. We have to fight that part of darkness that's in us. And it's not always easy. So people always feel as if, there's a part of them that is. And so they're kind of drawn to it. So that's kind of my perception.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting perception. In fact, I've talked quite a bit with homicide detectives about this, why people kill. And for example, if somebody offended you, they say that you might write them a strongly worded letter. You might confront them. You might, do, something that you feel would sully their reputation. But along the list of things that you might do is not kill. The serial killer or the murderer has that on their list of options, that, you know what, I could kill him.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
And then that's what's quite haunting, is that, that this person feels that that's one of their options in life.
Yeah, I quite agree with that. A lot of my character personalities come from people that I've actually met. Having served in the Marine Corps and the Navy and the National Guard and the Army Reserve, I met lots of personalities, if you will. I can give an example of just two that I can talk about. One was he was actually related to a gang in Chicago. I can't give you names. I won't do that, of course. But I was one time at a bar with him and a bunch of other Marines when I was in the Marine Corps. And somebody started a fight with him, and he took him outside. And during the fight, he was very cruel, very cruel. And I don't want to scare anyone out there,
Right.
but when the fight was over, he drug him over to the curb and put his teeth against the curb and kicked the back of his head.
God.
And his teeth, blood everywhere. Anyway, that was one of the personalities that I saw. I didn't like it, and even scared me.
Right.
Another personality was a wonderful, warm, friendly, open Marine. I won't mention his name either, but he was one of those kinds of guys that just loved to be with people and such. And he would do anything for a $20 bill.
Yeah.
So one time when I was in the Marine Corps, I was what they call the crash rescue firefighter. And we sat on the end of the runway and we watched planes come in and land. And our job was to respond with our fire truck sitting there if they had a problem. Well, we were in Yuma, Arizona, Marine Corps Air Station, and we were sitting out there, and there's a crew of 4 of us. And one of them found a dead snake. The snake had been dead for, at least a week or maybe 2, and it was all rounded and bloated. I don't want to get gross or anything, but anyway, we bet him $20. He said, "Hey, you take a bite out of that snake and we'll give you a $20 bill." And he said, "Okay." And smiling, he went over, picked up that stiff snake, all bloated, and he looked at us and then kind of smiled and he bit right into it. And that just exploded in his face and everything, got so bloated. Took his $20 bill and he was happy. And there were other things that he did, I won't go in, that were pretty nasty too, but he was a wonderful personality. But I find that I don't want to do all the talking here, Logan.
No, it's fascinating. I'm enjoying it. So please. Yeah.
To me, the human mind, the human mind and the imagination of the human mind is remarkable.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. We can imagine all kinds of things, and we do imagine all kinds of things. And I often say that people want to go to a movie because they want to experience that private, personal feeling that they sometimes have. And they go to a good movie or they read a really good book. And it kind of gives them satisfaction, if you will.
Yeah.
Because they fed that part of them that it's secret and quiet up here and no one really knows. They don't share it, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, whether it's a book, whether it's a movie, or whether it's a point of view video game, they're all kind of having us live vicariously in someone else's shoes.
Yes, very good. Yes.
We talked a little bit about movies. Have you thought about the Blue Eyes Killer trilogy as a movie or a TV series?
Yeah. I often think about the Killing Blue Eyes trilogy as a movie. There's a lot to draw from to make a movie out of the 2, even just the 2 books that previously exist. When I get the 3rd one done, it'll be even better. Or they could have it's written so that they could have like 3 different movies if they wanted to, or one good movie. And I think it'll make a great movie. And I think for Blue Eyes, maybe Chris Pine would be a great actor for that. Chris Pine, just put a pair of blue eyes on that guy, and I think he'd make a great Blue Eyes Killer. I really do. And maybe even Kellen Lutz. He's also a good one that would be good for the character, I think. But it's a matter of opinion, you know what I mean? So, for Cooper, there's only one person for me, that's Zac Efron.
Okay.
Zac would be the great Marshall Cooper. That's my opinion, and there's other characters, but I won't go into them. But those are the primary characters that I think.
It's fun to visualize it. I can see Chris Pine and Zac Efron confronting each other. I think that'd be quite a interesting duo on the screen. That's for sure.
Yeah, I do too. I really do. Yeah, they'd be great actors. But and there are some of the other books. I've got 3 Westerns. Before the end of the year, I've got 3 Westerns that will be out. The first Western is about to come out now, and it's called La Bounty. And for that character, tell you the truth, Logan, I would Tom Selleck, no doubt about it.
Oh yeah,
Tom Selleck. And very quickly, it's about a railroad engineer that every year he takes 4 weeks off and he rides into the Sierra Nevada mountains, and he just spends 4 weeks up there all by himself, alone from the world. And of course, he runs all kinds of problems and everything. And one of the problems is a smart-mouthed orphan boy he comes across that he winds up having to take care of and get someplace. He comes across a beautiful young businesswoman from Chicago, and she's got hired guns after her. And he finds a Indian warrior on a peace mission, and he brings him back to life, saves him, and all the trouble that accumulates.
Sounds great. I
Tom
can
Selleck.
see Tom Selleck in there. I'm privileged to work with Tom Selleck on occasion.
Oh, you
And,
lucky man.
Yeah, I work with him on Blue Bloods.
Wow.
And he is a real life hero. I mean, he's bigger than the average bear. He's got hands the size of baseball mitts. Super nice guy. But what you see is what you get. That the characters you see in Commissioner Reagan, or even as Magnum on Magnum PI, he's like that. I mean, he's a real life hero, and he's a great guy to have on set because he controls the whole production in a very positive way. Can't say enough nice things about him. See him in a beautiful Western like the one you've written would be fantastic.
Yes, I would like that. He was great in Quickly Down Under.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and
I
all
love
of the
that
Jesse
movie.
Stone theory series and all that. Yeah.
Yes.
There's nothing that he doesn't do that isn't good, in my
I
opinion.
agree.
Yeah, absolutely. He's our modern day John Wayne, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about the other Westerns you've written. That was one. You said you've written three?
Yes.
Yeah.
Another one I've written is called We the Hunters. And that's a pretty good Western. It's about a Colorado marshal and his deputy. Well, to make a long story short, his deputy's wife and child are murdered. And the house is burned, and they're burned in the house with them. And the deputy gets wind of who the five were that did it. And he leaves, he throws the badge to the side, and he goes after them, which means the town marshal has to go after his deputy, and who happens to be his best friend as well. Right. So there's a lot of emotional involvement in there, as well as a lot of action. There's a lot of action in it, and it too would make a good movie. But I haven't thought about characters for that one.
It's interesting that you like to write about Westerns as well, because I think there's no greater classic dichotomy between good and evil than the strong hero in the Old West. Do you feel the same way?
Yes, I do indeed. Yes. Yes.
He's left to his own resources. He's, has to be a thinking man, has to be a brave man, has to be a cruel man at times. What's your favorite Western, TV movie?
One of my favorites probably would be Louis L'Amour and Hondo. That was one of my favorites with John Wayne. That was probably my favorite. There have been a lot of others, but
John Wayne or Clint Eastwood as a cowboy, which do you prefer?
Now you're asking a tough question, because they're both so incredibly fitted for that position. You know what I mean? Yeah. And John Wayne was such an all-American. He was he was very, very patriotic.
Yes.
And, but Clint Eastwood, he is incredibly talented too. Yeah. Director and actor, And
they each kind of reflect their times, I think, because John Wayne would only play a purely good character. For the most part, there's a couple of...
For the most part, yes.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
And Eastwood was more of the troubled character that was partly good or a little bad, and the two used to butt heads over that, actually. Yeah.
It's funny, Logan, I can tell that you were an actor just by the way you explain everything.
Yeah, I use my hands too much. That's the Italian in me. I use my hands a lot. That's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, when did you start writing?
Well, actually, I started writing early, way back in the Navy, probably 74, 75. I wrote a bunch of short stories and sent them back to my wife and two daughters. And the first one my wife doesn't appreciate today, but it was called Debbie the Cow. Her name is Debbie. But it wasn't what you're thinking. It was a mom and children and their love for one another, But And then cool. I started writing more and more after that and got into books. And I have to give my wife credit because she was my editor. She would correct the spelling and suggest a change in a sentence maybe. But I always give her credit. So I'm giving her credit now.
Yeah.
Debbie, thank you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, behind every strong man, there's a strong woman, that's for sure.
Indeed. Well
Yeah.
put.
Did
Well
you
put.
spend most of your career in the military?
Well, I spent 3 years in the Marine Corps
Mhm.
as a 17-year-old kid,
Mhm.
and I was a crash rescue firefighter, as I mentioned. I spent 5 years in the United States Navy, and I was what they called a hull maintenance technician, which was also a shipboard firefighter, which is why I wound up in that particular job. And I spent 4 years in the Army National Guard, and I was an Army medic because I was a civilian paramedic at the time. So they made me an Army medic. And then I got out of that, went into the active Army Reserve, and I was an Army medic instructor there. And I really enjoyed teaching. And that's pretty much it. And then between that, pretty much federal service fire department positions. So
Wonderful,
loved
wonderful.
it,
Well,
loved it
thank you for
all.
your service. I'm sure you learned
Thank
a
you.
lot to color your books with colorful characters and locations, being in all those different roles in the military.
Yes, it did. It did help me.
Yeah.
Starting from scratch, going on up to E7, that's the highest rank ever made, and that's supervisional as well as instructing and teaching and working with people and helping. Especially when I was a medic instructor, I really enjoyed it, Logan, because I had people come to me after hours wanting extra help, and helping people is what the world's all about, and that's what I love to do. I love to help people, and
Wonderful. And you like to
that's just.
entertain people as well. Your books are wonderful. Tell us a little bit about this third installment of Killing Blue Eyes and when people can expect it to be hitting the shelves, so to speak.
Okay. Okay. Readers out there, I'll give you a little hint.
Okay.
Pray for the Abyss wraps up with Blue Eyes in prison.
Mm.
Killing Blue Eyes, the first book, is when they go after him for the first time and they capture him and they put him on death row. Now, in Pray for the Abyss, the book's out right now, he is in prison, but he makes friends with a sergeant who is in the Correctional Communication Center and becomes friends with him. And his wife becomes then is Killing Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes' wife, he's married. I'll get into that in a second, but he's married, and his wife creates an affair with this sergeant. So it's arranged that he helps him escape off death row. And then it starts all over again. Now, here's the thing, readers. Pray for the Abyss starts off with a 7-year-old little boy on death row who is going in there to see his father. His father is Blue Eyes. So now we involve a 7-year-old little boy raised on the dark side. At the same time, Clayton Cooper, the town marshal, his wife got pregnant at the same time, and she had a little baby, a 7-year-old at the same time. He's homeschooled, and part of his homeschool is Christianity. So now you have the dark 7-year-old and you have the light 7-year-old bumping heads coming together. And as you read the book, you're going to find that there's as much love, family as Logan spoke, there's as much love on the dark side, family, as there is on the righteous side, if you will. Much love. And when Blue Eyes starts doing different things to the family, to friends, to acquaintances of Clayton Cooper to motivate him to kill him instead of arresting him again in Pray for the Abyss, you will find that it gets pretty strict and pretty strong. And pretty soon the kids are bumping heads. And I won't go into any more detail, but I will tell you it's interesting with those little kids, the things that happen and the things you see, the things you hear, how it draws you in. As for the third book, it's going to involve those kids a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And the kids are going to be a little bit older. And that darkness and that light will grow stronger. And you will see them begin to blend and hit heads even more strongly. And it's going to get more into darkness and more into the light. So pretty much that's it. I don't want to say any more, but
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Alex Comey has written a trilogy of books about a serial killer that is pinned in part to biblical references. It's a fascinating read. You will find yourself drawn into a world that is quite disturbing at times and quite disturbingly normal at times. And he's done a wonderful job of writing about evil and good in this world. The installment that's out right now is called Pray for the Abyss. The Killing Blue Eyes is the first installment, and the third installment is soon to be released. And I know you'll be looking forward to it. Alex, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
thank you, Logan. I appreciate you having me over. And it was nice to meet you. You've got quite a reputation yourself, and I'm quite impressed.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And I enjoyed speaking with you as well. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.